music buffs.
Hey, turn the volume up, yeah? Make Me a Mixtape is here. I'm Jordan Stevens.
I'm Clara Amfo, and this is our brand new weekly music show.
You pick a theme.
We select the tunes.
And we battle it out to create the ultimate playlist just for you.
May the best music lover win.
Oh, it's about to go down. Let's go!
Make Me a Mixtape.
Listen only on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Scottish Football Podcast. I'm Adam Binnie, and as we eagerly anticipate the return of League football this coming weekend, in this episode we're going to preview what we can expect from League One and League Two.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
I'm joined by two very special guests this morning. First, Craig Telfer, host of A View from the Terrace podcast, and more importantly, big Stenhousemuir fan. Busy summer, Craig, but I'm sure you must be desperate to see the Warriors back in action after last season's success, no?
Yeah, I can't wait. We're playing Arbroath at home on Saturday, so it's Flag Day, so it's a very historic day in the club's history. So I can't wait to be there for that and hopefully get 3 points against the Licties.
And I'm also joined by Spartans winger Danny Denholm. Danny, I know you've been back playing the League Cup already, but you must be really looking forward to the league season, the real stuff getting back in action.
Yeah, absolutely. It's trying to savour every moment playing football these days because the days might be numbered. So I'm really looking forward to it. I can't even remember who we've got on Saturday. Oh, away to Stranraer. So what a way to start. Away down to Stranraer. So no, I am really excited about it.
I'm glad you remembered. You sound excited, Danny. For a lot of people, Inverness. So let's start with League One, and for a lot of people, Inverness would have been favourites after going into the season. You know, relegated from the Championship last season, but they've already lost to League Two rivals Annan in the League Cup. Also hammered 6-0 by Dundee. It's going to be a tough season for them. There's a lot of pressure on Duncan Ferguson already. Craig, what have you made of Inverness the last few months? It's not been an easy time for them.
No, I know this podcast is only supposed to be 20 minutes, half an hour, but you could spend even double that talking about what the state that Inverness, Caledonian Thistle in this season. I think it's going to be a very, very, very difficult campaign for them. They have, obviously, there's so much has happened off the pitch. We could be there all day talking about that, but on the pitch, certainly, they have got about 4 or 5 good, experienced players, guys like Billy Mackay, Danny Devine, players like that, guys who have got a good pedigree. However, beyond that, the team is going to be mostly exclusively made up of young players from the academy. Some of them are quite good. Some of them, like Robbie Thompson, Danny will know from his last season at Spartans, he's coming back. He should contribute much. But beyond that, I think this is going to be a really difficult season. And although Inverness will have full-time football, that gives them a massive advantage over other sides in the division, I can honestly see them finishing as low as 7th or 8th. I don't particularly rate Duncan Ferguson. I think he's perhaps out his depth at Caledonian Thistle. And I think the fans will be expecting a difficult year ahead.
Danny, would you agree? Do you think it's going to be a really tough season for Inverness Caledonian Thistle this year?
I haven't really kept track on the pitch stuff, but the off the pitch stuff seems like quite chaotic. I think there was a move into Kelty business, and that seemed bizarre. But I think it'll be a tough season. As I say, the full-time football might help them out against some of the part-time sides, but yeah, they don't have the same calibre of player they had in the past. So I think it might be a little bit of a struggle. Maybe playoffs, but I can't see them winning the league.
Yeah, 2 teams went up from League One, of course, last season. Falkirk League champions and Hamilton through the playoffs. Alloa and Montrose were the other teams in the top 4. By the way, what a start Alloa have made to the season, beating St Johnstone in the League Cup, finishing second, just narrowly missing out on the last 16. Craig, you're the man for lower league stuff. You've been looking into it the last day or so. What can we expect from Alloa? A promotion push this year, maybe?
I definitely think so. Yeah, I do think teams like Alloa and Montrose will be looking not just to win promotion, but to try and win the division. I think this season in League One, you had something. You don't have like an outstanding full-time team that are streets ahead of everyone else. You had that last season with Falkirk, and then you had Hamilton Academical, who were not far behind them. But we don't have that this year. So I think certainly the championship's up for grabs. And I do think that teams like Alloa and Montrose can go for that. Alloa have got one of the nicest guys in football, Andy Graham, managing them, and he really seemed to galvanise the club after he replaced Brian Rice midway through last season. He really had two very good loan players on his books in Taylor Stephen and Bobby Wales. Doesn't necessarily have that this time around. However, I do think he will be in the market to try and strengthen the squad, and I think that other teams, bigger teams, will see how these players kicked on under Andy Graham and will actively look to send their young players out to Alloa. And in terms of Montrose, Stuart Peachey's a fantastic manager. He's one of the longest serving managers in the SPFL. Minimal turnover in the players there. And when you just look through that squad, there's a really good mix of experienced professional guys like Sean Dillon, Paul Watson, Terry Masson, and guys who they've signed from university football. It's a path that Danny has taken himself in his own career, but guys who are coming from that environment into the SPFL, and it's worked very successfully in the past. So I would expect to see both teams challenging for the title this season.
Yeah, there's a couple of lads from Heriot Watt, I think, that were up there, and perhaps McIver Redwood from Stirling as well.
That's right. Yeah,
good players. Danny, last season was incredibly tight in League One, just 17 points between third place Alloa and Stirling, who were in ninth and eventually relegated. Would you expect it to be similar this campaign, quite tight, as Craig might have been suggesting there?
Yeah, I think so. Again, obviously Falkirk won the league last year and they won it a canter, but now looking at the sides that have came down, the sides that have came up, I can see it being tighter, to be honest with you. I think obviously Craig's a Stennismuir fan. They might be down the bottom half of the table, but they'll compete. They will compete.
He's not happy with that.
They'll compete. They won't make things easy. They're well organised. They will not get battered by anybody in that division. And if they're one of the teams towards the lower end of the table, then I can't see anybody running away with it. Put it that way. It'll be tight. Even teams like Arbroath coming down, I cannot see them running away with it. It's going to be a tough season for them as well, coming from down from the Championship. It's not as easy as changing that mentality when you've been losing every week to go and then kick on and start winning every week. So no, there's a lot of good teams in Montrose, as you touched on before. We played them in pre-season. They were missing 7 or 8 players, but they've got an idea how they play. I was really impressed with them. And they touched on the university, some of the people they've got from university. The striker, is it McIver Redwood? Really impressed with him. I think he's ready for the jump. He kind of bullied us a little bit in that pre-season friendly. It's not what you expect for a student, but he came in, he bullied some experienced professional players. So you always write Montrose off, but they just tend to just keep getting the playoffs every single year. So it's going to be a tight division, I think.
Students bullying you, Danny. Can't have that at that age. Let's touch on the teams who've been newly promoted. Craig's beloved Stennismuir and Dumbarton. Craig, how many points will Stenny win the league by this season?
I'm going to echo what Danny said there. I think it is going to be a challenging season for the Warriors. I think everyone at the club's expecting it to be a bit tricky. We've moved up a division, but it's broadly the same group of players, minimal turnover, 4 players in, 4 players out. And I think that everyone at the club, the manager, the recruitment team, they're all working hard to get a good calibre of player in that will not only freshen up the squad, but give us a little bit of advantage going into these games. One thing the team does have, though, they've got an incredible team spirit. You know, the players will absolutely fight and battle for each other. And I know that'll only get you so far, but I am confident that Gary Naismith and the boys, they can not just stay up, but stay up, consolidate, and look to kick on even further in the division. Dumbarton, meanwhile, who came up, I actually think they're in pretty good shape to have an impact. They kept a hold of 2 of their better players, Michael Ruth and Finlay Gray. I thought they would definitely go into full-time football, so fair play to Stevie Farrell. Don't know how he's managed to keep a hold of the pair of them, but he's obviously said something to keep them. But good solid defence, some really good players there. Mark Durran, Carlo Pignatiello, Greg Young's come back from injury, Matty Shields has returned after a spell at Cove Rangers. So when you look across the park, I think Dumbarton have got a lot going for them. Could maybe do with another centre-back and a wee bit more creativity in the middle of the park, but I think that Dumbarton are in good nick, and Stenny, if they can get those reinforcements, I think both teams can prosper this season ahead.
Danny, do you think anyone's going to struggle? Anyone you think will be down at the bottom of the table? I know you suggested that Stenny are probably going to be okay, but is there anyone you think might struggle in this league this year?
I think Stenny will be fine. I think they'll stay up, and I think Dumbarton are probably a slightly worse side. I just feel like Stenny have a real solid spine, experienced, and they just don't never go hiding. Whereas I think Dumbarton can be flaky at times. They've got some real good players. You mentioned Michael Roof. I thought was outstanding when we played them last year. Obviously a bit of star quality, but I feel they're not quite as solid as Stenny, and I think that'll play a big part. I also probably feel a little bit for Annan. I mean, they did great last year. They managed to catch Stirling. They were miles behind, and they've also got a good group. But I look at their team, and they've got some good players. But I think those three squads, I think Dumbarton, Steny, and Annan, probably the weaker of the squads in the division. And I probably would fancy Annan to be propping up the table, and then maybe Dumbarton ninth. I think Steny will be okay. But those are the three for me that stand out. Because Queen of the South were down there last year, but I can see them kicking on. They can't have another season like that.
I mean, I really feel like the division as well, I think you can effectively divide it into two, and I think the teams that are probably going to finish in the bottom half, Stennismuir, Annan, Dumbarton, Kelty Hearts, Inverness, Caledonian Thistle, I think they'll finish in the lower half. And then I think that the teams like Arbroath, Montrose, Alloa Athletic, Queen of the South, maybe Cove Rangers can challenge for the title there. But it's very tight. There's not one outstandingly good side like a Falkirk or a Hamilton, and there's not like a side that's massively out of its depth like Edinburgh City were last season.
Danny, is there any players we should be looking out for this season?
I think Ruth could be really good. I mentioned him earlier. I think he's ready. I think he's had a couple of moves. He was obviously highly rated as a youth. I think he was at Aberdeen and he went to Arbroath and Falkirk. Didn't quite kick on for him. And I think now he's ready, I feel. You watch him play and you feel that he's a bit older than he is. Maybe he's 25, 26, 27 years old because he's fast, he's strong, he puts himself about, he's got a bit of quality. Plays like he knows the game really well, but I think I've seen his age was about 22, 23 the other day. So he's young. I think he's now at the area where he's going to really, really kick on. So he's the one that would stand out from the teams that come out, because in terms of Stennismuir, they came up from League Two. There's a couple of really good players. I like Ewan O'Reilly and Yates. I think they're good going forward, but their strength really is in their spine and their experience. You'll know better than me, Craig.
Yeah, the guy, I mean, I'm sticking with my own team, Michael Anderson, I think is going to have a breakout season, central midfielder, just can do a bit of everything. He's developed into a really, really good player in his the past 3 years at Steny. Somebody who's very, very fit, can run about the park, tackle, good passer, good close control, and I think he's going to be really important for the Warriors. Michael Ruth, as we've touched on there, someone who I think can go and have a really good season, but someone else who I think is going to have a really good season this is a shoot prediction, I'm going to say he could be the League One Player of the Year. That's Rhys Lyon, who is at Queen of the South. He was excellent at Kelty Hearts last season, and I've watched the Queen of the South highlights, and every time they do something good, he really seems to be at the heart of it. Really powerful midfielder, really strongly, quite physically built guy, and I think that Queen of the South will be really relying on him to drive the team forward and challenge for that title.
I'm going to give you another one, Craig. Luke Rankin, 19-year-old striker at Alloa Athletic this season, bagged the goals last season on loan at Shire last year in East Stirling. Couple of goals the other week against St Johnstone as well, so he would be my pick. Right, before we move on to League Two, let's get some quick fire predictions from you, Craig. Danny, you can set this one out. We're not going to try and get you in trouble or anything like that, so this one's just for Craig. Craig, who's going to win the league title?
Queen of the South.
Standout player?
Michael Anderson at Stennismuir.
Who's going down?
Annan Athletic.
Oh, Danny, any predictions without being too controversial for League One?
I think Queen of the South will win it as well, actually. I've been quite impressed with them. And then in terms of relegation, it'd be quite funny to see Craig's face if Steny finished 10th. But I don't see it happen. I do feel it'll be Annan, Dumbarton. And I think, do you know what? I actually think two will drop. I think one will go via the playoffs as well. So Annan will go, and then potentially Dumbarton will go. That could come back to bite me in the backside. That could be pinned on some dressing room walls if we get to the playoffs. Hey ho.
Right, on to League Two then, lads. Danny, you guys at Spartans must be feeling pretty confident. I mean, fantastic showing in the League Cup, top of Group E on 9 points, 5-0 away win over League One at Cove Rangers, and a 1-0 win at Livingston as well. The boys must be flying.
Yeah, we're feeling really good actually. We started off with a defeat against Dunfermline and we weren't that bad and we got beat 3-0, but you think there and then, that's it over really, because you need to win all your games, and then put together 3 different but good performances. Away up at Cove when we won 5-0 was just out the blue, but some of the football we played, it was a nice pitch, it had been wet so you could zip it about, and we played some amazing football that day, and some of the goals we scored were fantastic, so that gave us a real shot in the arm. And then it was against Forfar, it wasn't a great game, but we found a way to win. And then against Livingston there, we found a different way. We played sort of low block and frustrated them, and a bit of a smash and grab really, but shows we can play a number of different ways. We've got a lot of firepower going forward. We've got a solid back line. We feel really positive about the season coming up.
Craig, apart from Spartans, then anyone that you fancy for the league title or to be challenging up the top of League Two this season?
I think Clyde are going to win the title. I think they're probably the bookmakers' favourites to win the title. I think that the business that Ian McCall has been able to do over the summer, he's obviously been given quite a bit of money to spend. That's reflective in the calibre of the player they've been able to bring in. But I don't see any other side in that division who have the same degree of quality in the starting 11 and off the bench as well. I think they've got a decent goalkeeper in Brian Kinnear. They've signed good fullbacks there. Jordan Houston's coming on one side. Forgive me, I can't remember who's coming on the left, but Craig Howie, Lee Hamilton, solid defenders. And then you look at the options that they've got, like into the midfield. And then for the forward, they were to get Jordan Allen on a season-long loan from Falkirk. I don't think there's another striker with the same degree of quality that he has. And on top of that, McCall has turned like Logan Dunnicky, who was a centre-back / right-back last season, quite a decent one as that. But he's turned him into like a centre-forward, and he's playing like Didier Drogba. I don't know if you saw the goal he scored against Partick Thistle in the League Cup, where he won his own flick on, ran round Lee Ashcroft and scored. But I'm really, really keen to see how he develops over the course of the season. Tommy Robson played the ball. That's who the left back is. And I think that they've got the strength and depth, and I think they've got a good manager, Ian McCall, and I think they'll win it. Not comfortably, but I think they'll finish about 7 or 8 points ahead of Spartans. I think Spartans will have another really good season again.
Danny, how tough an opponent are Clyde going to be this season? Because they've had a few eye-catching results, a bit like yourselves in the League Cup, most notably Ian McCall getting a 3-2 victory over his former club, Partick Thistle. How tough are they going to be this season?
Yeah, I think they've had a lot of tension on them. I'll say that. They seem to have added a lot of quality and spent a lot of money, and they'll be a very good side. So the Partick game, some of the goals, as you say, the Logan Dunnicky goal was fantastic, and they look a right good side. But there has been a big turnover at Clyde as well, so it's how they gel, and I wouldn't expect them to run away with it. I've heard a few people say that. We'll see. I mean, they look a good side, but there's a couple of other teams as well that we're wary of. But yeah, Clyde look a good side. They've got some good players. Most of them signed from higher up the leagues as well. A few that probably would get a deal at League One / lower Championship clubs. So they've got a lot of quality, but it's hard to know at this stage. It really is hard to know at this stage how they'll gel together, because it's been a big transitionary period for them. Yeah,
Craig, what about the teams that have come down from League One then? I'm sure you're probably expecting another tough season for Edinburgh City. Edinburgh City and Stirling Albion, the two sides that have come down. Would you say that's fair?
I think so. I think that I'm presuming, like, if Clyde are the bookmakers' favourites to win the division, then I'd probably say Edinburgh City are the bookmakers' favourites to finish bottom. I think that it's been a really difficult. Last season was very difficult for Edinburgh, with the financial difficulties and then the points deduction. In the summer, there was big question marks as to whether or not they were actually going to be able to compete in League Two, because there was issues surrounding their bronze licence. But thankfully, that's been secured, and certainly in the short and medium term, the fans have got a club to support. But I think reflecting in their transfer business, they've signed. Like Mark Weir's coming from Stirling Albion, he's a decent goalkeeper. John Robertson, like advancing in years, came in from Al Athletic, but very, very professional guy. He's coming as a captain. Beyond that, though, it's like waifs and strays guys that have come from Spartans and Bonnyrigg, and I think that Michael Mackindo really does have a difficult job in his hands to try and galvanise that group of players and make them competitive. And I watched the highlights of their game against Clyde in the League Cup. They were beaten 5-0. And they were thumped in that match. They were really thumped in that match. It's not to be too critical of Edinburgh, because I know it's a difficult set of circumstances. But if we're being realistic, they're probably favourites to finish bottom. And for Stirling Albion, a bit of a transitional season for them as well. There's a lot of stuff going on off the pitch. Alan Maybury's come in as manager, lost a lot of experienced players, and while he's been able to sign a handful of guys that have got a bit of know-how in the lower leagues, a lot of the guys that have come in are some boys from the Lowland League, some offcuts from youth football. So it's a really mix and match squad there. They do have good firepower though in Dale Carrick and Dale Hilson, but I can see Stirling Albion narrowly missing out on the playoffs.
Okay, Danny, anyone that we should be looking out for in League Two this season? You'll know a lot of the boys well. Perhaps any teammates, anyone you've played against last season or in the past that you think could go and have a good season and really surprise a few people.
I think East Fife will be better this year. I think I've played under Dick Campbell for years. He's some character, shall we say, but he'll have them competing. I think. I mean, they've had another one. They've had a great group stage. They've got a good blend of sort of youth and experience. I thought they maybe add a couple more, and they might still do. So I think they'll be up there. I think Stranraer will be much improved this year. I played with the manager, Scott Agnew. He's got a clear idea of how he wants to play, and he wouldn't have been happy last year, but I think they've seemed to have added a bit of quality, so I think they'll be a little bit higher up. I think I would agree with Craig with Edinburgh City. It's hard for them to bring. They've had the financial problems. The manager seems like a character and might get them playing. They signed a guy from us that I thought got a bit of raw deal. Us didn't play as often as he should have. I think he might be all right. Sam Jones, so him and John Roberts, the middle of the park, could do okay. I don't think they'll be miles adrift like some are saying. I think they'll be competing down there, but I don't think they'll be miles adrift. It's a bit like League One in terms of, as well, for me, that there's not an awful lot between the sides. There really isn't on any given day. Momentum plays such a big part, and that's why I can't really see anybody running away with it or anybody miles adrift at the bottom, but we'll see in a few weeks' time, I suppose.
Okay, prediction time then, Craig. Danny, you're off the hook again for this one. Craig, right, who's going to win League Two?
Clyde.
Who'll be the standout player?
Dylan Forrest at Peterhead. I think he's a smashing player.
And who's going to be in the relegation playoff place?
Edinburgh City.
Yeah, I think we've already covered all of that. Anyway, Danny, any predictions, any final predictions you'd like to make ahead of League Two other than PFA Scotland Player of the Year and 45 goals for yourself?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's as I say, it's going to be tough. I think teams like Peterhead will compete again. I think Clyde will compete. I think East Fife will compete. But I don't really know who's going to be up there, and I don't want to say too much. I don't want anything pinned on the dressing room wall that Danny Denholm says this is going to happen, this is going to be that. I think Stirling might be actually better than people expect. I think there was a lot of sort of transition for them, as I say, but they've still got a lot of quality at this level. Dale Hilson, Dale Carrick, Lewis Mill when he's fit, Ross Davison when he's fit. So a lot of people are writing them off. I wouldn't be surprised to see them actually competing up there as well. But no, I don't want to be too heavy with my predictions. Apart from me, obviously being left back team of the year at the end of this season.
That'd be good. Listen, that's all we've got time for, unfortunately, lads. Many thanks to Craig and Danny, and thank you for listening. We've got new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast out every weekday morning, bright and early, so to keep up to speed with everything you need to know about the national game at all levels, just follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. From me, Adam Binnie, from Craig Telfer and from Danny Denholm, thank you very much for listening, and goodbye for now.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.